We have to have strong, healthy digestion. We have to be able to take the food that we bring in and digest it so that we make good organs and materials within the physiology. So strong digestion is essential for our health, and weak digestion can cause all sorts of problems. So again, today we have our three doctors along with us, and they're all going to be giving their own perspective on digestion. And we're going to start off with Dr. Brennan. And so Dr. Brennan, can you give us your perspective on the main digestive systems within the physiology?
Sure, Noel. I'd like to start with what Ayurveda would consider Jataragni, and what we, from our own perspective, would consider the digestive system as we know it. And if we just start at the mouth and we recognize the digestive system is really one big long tube that ends up at the anus, with, in the meantime, connections from very important digestive organs like the liver and the pancreas, then we take in food into our mouth, and there are both salivary and mucus glands in the mouth that moisten, and then we chew and break down the food, and this will make it much more easily digestible. The salivary gland gives us enzymes that start already to break down and digest carbohydrates, and now the tongue projects this bolus or ball of food into the back of the throat, and sphincter opens at the top of the gullet. A wave of contraction of muscle in the gullet pushes the food down. Sphincter opens at the bottom of the gullet. This food is in the stomach. Now, the stomach is an organ which will hold the food while continuing the process of digestion. In the Ayurvedic context, there is a kapha which we've already mentioned, a bodhika kapha in the mouth, and this refers to those salivary mucus glands which start the process of digestion. And there's prana, which actually is the impulse of swallowing. And then there is, in the stomach now, a kledika kapha, and this would refer to the mucus. And this also, the stomach is considered the prime organ for kaphas to be nourished in through the body, which is very interesting, because we know in the stomach that the digestion now starts working on the sugars which are absorbed from the stomach, as well as liquid absorbed from the stomach and nothing else. So these would actually be, very kapha nourishment to the body. And so in the stomach there is acid, and also the kledika kapha in the stomach moistens and protects the lining of the stomach from the acid. The pH falls to about 3, which starts the processes of digestion of protein. And when the stomach is also churning the food and mixing, and the process of digestion break it down, and then it gets to the fundus, the bottom of the stomach, where the sphincter can open. It goes into the duodenum. We're now into the small intestine. Now, the lower intestine and the lower stomach and the small intestine in Ayurvedic context is called Jataragni, and here's where the vast majority of the digestion is going to happen. In the first portion of the small intestine is a tube about 22 feet long, and is about 1 inch diameter. And the surface area is incredibly about 5,400 square yards inside this tube, because of a lot of folds, but because of almost innumerable microvilli, little finger-like projections, so tiny, but it gives a vast absorption area for the nourishment. In the duodenum, fluid comes in from the liver containing bile and bile salts, which start the process of breaking down the fats. And from the pancreas comes the enzymes that will digest proteins, fats. And now all these are being broken down into smaller molecules, which then get absorbed. And then in these microvilli, which are helping this absorption, are connected to veins, mesenteric veins that bring all the nutrients absorbed to the liver, where they're going to be processed further. And that's also very interesting, because Ayurveda talks about 5 fundamental fires in the liver, which transform what have been absorbed down to the very finest level of the 5 elements. But so there's a transformation that goes on in the liver, and then it will be transformed into rasa, which will bring you to the next talk in a few minutes from Dr. Naheed, and she will be talking about how then from that rasa all the tissues in the body are nourished. and how from that nourishment comes our health or our disease, depending on how good these fires are. But the Jata-Ragni, very important because it has a very powerful influence to enliven the liver and the tissues. When the food has reached the end of the small intestine, it opens into the large intestine, about 3 inches wide, about 5 feet of it, down to the anus. Here is incredible what happens in terms of a microbiome which now from a medical point of view we can begin to understand the connections with the gut and the nervous system and the immune system, because the microbiome creates short-chain fatty acids, which and also about 30 different neurotransmitters, including serotonin, 90% of our happy hormone, and 50% of our dopamine, which is our motivating hormone. They're created by the microbiome in the large gut. And so Ayurveda always said the digestion was the seat of health or disease in the body. If it's healthy, we create ojas and we create a great vitality and strength in tissues, in our immunity. But if it's disturbed by in any way, we get ama or toxins that create disease. And so it's fascinating that there's about 500 million nerves in the digestive system, more than is in your spine. And 90% of those feed information back up through the vagus nerve to the brain. So really the gut is incredible. It's a nervous organ, it's a hormonal system, it's creating the neurotransmitters, it protects the body from intrusion. When it's healthy, especially the microbiome would protect the body from absorbing toxins. But if our digestive system gets disturbed in any way, then we can understand how Ayurveda will put so much emphasis on it for health and so much importance on healing it when it's diseased. In the colon, well, in the intestines, there's samana vata, which is what's allowing us to absorb. And in the colon, this is the seat of apana vata, which will eliminate eventually what we have not used in our feces. And that will be a lot of dead bacteria plus fiber that wasn't used, plus any residues. And so that is the digestive system from the modern perspective, with the insights coming in from Ayurveda being so true and so confirmed by modern medicine's perspective. The intestines, the seat of nourishing pitta in the body. The colon is then the seat of nourishing vata in the body. And as we say, all those nutrients transformed into rasa, and rasa being handing over to Dr. Naheed to take us from there in our trip to good health.
Okay, Don, so that's fascinating. So what you're saying there about serotonin is very interesting, because I suppose most people think of serotonin and they think of the brain, but you're actually saying that it's actually manufactured, it's actually created down in the gut. So that's, I can see why.
It's fascinating, Noel. I mean, up to now, why would digestive devices heal rheumatoid arthritis? How could that be? Well, we know that now the microbiome in the gut produces these short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyric acid. We know that actually modulates the immune system. It tones it down when it's got overactive and starting to attack our own tissues, as well as it knocks out the inflammatory molecules of the immune system. So it brings a great deal of control over that situation. So.
Okay, so it's no wonder Ayurveda places such huge emphasis on what we eat and how we eat and having a really strong digestion. And it's got so many tips, which Dr. Ratvinder is going to give us later on, about how to maintain that strong digestion. So really having that process from where you take the food into your mouth, the quality of the food you're taking in, and then right all the way through until you eliminate, but having that whole system working in a very healthy way and functioning correctly, and all the different vata, pitta and kapha digestive things there that are there in that process, it must be really essential to have all that working as well as possible to prevent disease.
And or you can see also how you can target, say, the Jattaragni in the stomach intestine, if that needs specific, or the Samanavata if the absorption is not good, or the Apanavata for elimination. So the Ayurveda is actually understanding functional features that can be addressed in terms of restoring balance and health.
That's fantastic. Again, Ayurveda pinpointing not just the symptoms of, maybe someone's having, acidic reflux, or they're having an ulcer or whatever, but not just looking at the symptoms, but looking at, well, okay, there's something wrong with the digestive process, there's something wrong in here. And then you can actually pinpoint it down to one of these major elements and then go about working through herbs and through lifestyle to remedy that. It's,
Yes.
Just the brilliance of Ayurveda. So you mentioned Rasa there, Dr. Brennan, and I know Rasa is the first of the tissues within the body, first of the 7 dhatus. So that's what we're going to talk to now with Dr. Naheed. Dr. Naheed is joining us from India, and she's going to explain to us the process in which, once the food gets digested, what actually happens to the different components through the different levels of tissue that we form. So hi, Dr. Naheed, welcome along. Can you hear us?
Thank you, Noel. Yes, I can.
Great. So you go ahead. You're going to talk about the 7 dhatus for us today.
Hello.
We can hear you perfectly.
Yeah. Thank you, Noel. So thank you, Dr. Brennan, for elaborating the whole digestive system, how we form the first dhatu, first tissue, rasa, out of the digestion. And now I'm going to explain that if our digestion works properly, if our Agni is fine, and then we make 7 respective tissues, and each one of them interlinked with the previous one. So what happens that when we form rasa properly, so what's the function of rasa dhatu, which can be correlated with our system, like body fluids, like plasma, like lymph. So they do nourishment. So their main purpose is to do nourishment to the entire body. And how we can assess that if someone is making the proper amount of rasa dhatu in their body is, we can see that they are having a good skin and hair, and they look, their skins are very soft, they are very enthusiastic, they are like, very energetic. But when they don't make that rasa tissue properly, then they can be restless. They will not be able to tolerate, loud music, loud sounds. They can be having symptoms like palpitation, and they can like feel exertion with a little hard work. So almost the symptoms like a dehydration, because rasa ultimately represents the body fluid. So if you don't have enough body fluid, you are going to show the symptoms of dehydration. Then the next one, which forms from rasa dhatu, that is rakta, which is blood. So what happens that rasa goes into the liver, and there with the help of ranjak pitta and agni, they get transformed into blood. What they do is, the main function of blood in our body is to keep us alive, to keep us enlivened. So when we make a good rakta blood tissue, then people will be having very bright red and coppery tongue, eyes, palm and sole. So that's one of the clinical features when someone is suffering with anemia, and doctor check their conjunctiva, their nails. So these are the signs that you're not making enough rakta tissue. So if someone doesn't making enough rakta tissue, then they can have a very rough, very cracky and dull, dry skin. Then forms the third tissue, which is muscle tissue, mamsa, which is also called mamcha. So their main function is to support our bones, to support our body, to give us a form and a shape. Those who have a good amount of mangsha and the muscle tissue, they can be seen that they are very muscular, they're strong, and their joints are well covered with the muscles. When someone is not making enough of the muscle tissues, then they can be like very emaciated, especially they don't have any muscles in their neck, in their hip region, and in their belly. Then comes the fourth one, which is the Meda. So Meda can be correlated with adipose tissues, which ultimately saves our energy in the form of fat inside the body. So those who have excellence of Meda tissue, you can be seen that they have very pleasing voice. You know, when they speak, you just feel like to listen to them, which I actually don't have. They are very large built and they are like very unable to tolerate exertion because they have, you know, a lot of fat in their body. And when we don't make fat tissue, adipose tissue properly, then it will be very interesting to know that we start having crackling sound in our joints. So you must be like, you know, sometimes when you're sitting with your legs folded and when you're just making it straight and you hear a pop kind of sound. That can be an important symptoms when you're not making enough Meda tissue, fat tissues. And people can be tired. You can feel that your eyes are very tired, like even if you're working for half an hour to 1 hour in your computer or laptop, your eyes seems to be feel very tired very easily. And of course those who don't have fat tissues appropriately, so they will be very lean and thin kind of person. Then comes the fifth one, which is the bone tissue, which is also called asthi. So what they do is, the main function is to hold our body, to keep us stabilized. So those who have excellence of bone tissue, they can have a broader shoulder, they will be having big head, and they have really strong teeth as well, like very firm jaws as well. And when we don't make enough of our bone tissue, then there can be problems like hair fall, there can be brittle nails, there can be very scanty body hair as well, and there will be very loose kind of joints. You know, their joints are not stable, more easily prone to break down, like, you know, get fractured. And comes the sixth one, which is majja, which the main function of that is to fill. So what they do, the majjas can be correlated with our nerves, with our bone marrow. So they fill our bones, of course, and they also do all the nervous activity inside the body. Those who have excellence of majja, the bone marrow tissue, they also have a very pleasant, very very deep kind of voice, and they looks like very very attractive. They are very lustrous, but they have a very good strength. So they can be, you know, go on WWE and can fight wrestling matches very easily. And when they don't make enough of majja dhatu, then people can suffer with a lot of vata disorders. It can be very serious kind of vata disorders as well, and our tissues become and our bones become very weak. That can be seen in conditions like osteo. Be correlated with our reproductive tissues. So the main function is to reproduce, to help in reproduction. And the person who have excellence of Shukra Dhatu, they have...
Excuse me, we lost you for a minute there, and I just wanted to point out that you've now moved on to Shukra Dhatu, the seventh issue. So now, just because we missed that little bit, Naheed, if you would continue what you were talking about Shukra.
Yeah, we didn't hear any of the start of Shukra, Dr. Naheed. Did we hear the end of the majja?
We just heard the end of it, I think. So yeah. If Dr. Naheed starts again with Shukra.
Start with Shukra, Dr. Naheed. That would be perfect.
Yeah, so should I start from Shukra?
Yeah.
Please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. You can. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the seventh one is Shukra, which can be correlated with our reproductive tissues, And those who have excellence of their Shukra Dhatu, they can be seen having very firm and white and well grown teeth and nails. And when we don't form enough of our reproductive tissues, our Shukra Dhatu, then there can be a lot of problem with our reproduction. It can be premature ejaculation as well. It can be impotency as well, and all of the reproductive issues. And when we make all these tissues properly in our body, then we form the ojas, which is our stabilizing force, which is our immunity, which can prevent us from a lot of disease and keeps us healthy. So, describing everything about the doshas in detail, what I think the importance of this is because it all because of digestion. So we need to really focus on our digestion, and that's why Ayurveda considers and gives, talks about a lot of about digestion. So how we can keep our digestion nice and good going, that Dr. Rajvinder is going to elaborate you. So now I'm going to hand over to Noel.
Thanks, Dr. Naheed. So that's fascinating stuff about the 7 different tissues and, how from one stage to another, right up to our reproductive tissue. And I'm presuming, again, if there's problems in a particular area that, an Ayurvedic doctor will be looking back to which way these tissues are being formed. Are they being formed correctly? Is there a problem in this area that's causing something to happen, So again, a very in-depth look at things, So, okay, Dr. Naheed, that's wonderful. Thanks for explaining all of that to us. So, Dr. Rajvinder, it's obviously very, very important that we keep very strong digestion and have a very good digestive system. So you're going to talk about the really important things around digestion and maybe the type of foods that we should eat and how we have to have a lot of respect for our digestive system if we want to be healthy. So I'll hand over to you, Dr. Rajvinder.
Thank you, Noel. Thank you, Dr. Don and Dr. Naheed, for explaining the relation of Jatragni and how the different layer of tissues are formed and how to keep ourselves healthy through our digestive system. As Ayurveda say, you are what you eat, and also Ayurveda say you are what you digest. So there's a big emphasis of digestion and health in Ayurveda. So there are 3 types of agnis or digestion that I'm going to talk about. As you all familiar now at this stage by Vata, Pitta and Kapha, how the quality of these Vata, Pitta, Kapha affect the digestive fire. And we're going to look into that correlation here. So the first Agni that I'm going to talk about is balance Agni, which is called Sama Agni in Ayurveda. So some of us are very blessed to have a very balanced Agni. So with the balanced Agni, the person feel hungry and person digest the food and feel light and energetic after eating the food, and the person has a lot of ojas, which is kind of good lustrous skin, a lot of health, and stomach feel happy and elimination is regular. So good hunger and good kind of digestion of food and good elimination. So that's kind of a balanced Agni, balanced metabolism. These kind of people digest mostly all kind of foods, what's in the season, and cook, and if the food is cooked properly, of course, without any much problem. So these people don't complain much about. So you can imagine these are probably healthy people. And then the other Agnis I'm going to talk about how Vata, Pitta, Kapha effect is. So first Agni is Vishma Agni. So Vishma Agni is irregular digestion. So as the word irregular comes here, you can pick up what dosha I'm going to talk about. So I'm talking about involvement of Vata here, because one of the quality of Vata is irregularity. So Vata people would have, if the Vata is out of balance, would have very irregular metabolism, which means the person don't feel hungry on time, and they could have bloating, they could have flatulence, they could have a lot of noises when digesting the food, and sometimes they have constipation, sometimes they have diarrhea. So we can correlate this Vishma Agni with IBS kind of symptoms. So that's kind of imbalanced Vata. So what Vata is? Dry, light, and cold. So you can kind of correlate eating dry, light, and cold salads gonna cause Vishma Agni. So to balance the Vishma Agni, you need to eat warm, cooked food and mild spices in the food and regular eating. And that's how the Vishma Agni can easily be changed into the Sama Agni. And then the second Agni is Tikshna Agni, and Tikshna Agni is hypermetabolism, which is related to Pitta dosha, because Pitta people have very strong digestive fire. So people with hypermetabolism, when they have too hot and too sharp qualities dominant in their physiology, so these people often complain that I'm still hungry after eating my dinner. And so most of the time, the food passes too quickly from the system. They eat and they go to the toilet and empty too soon, and they're hungry. And some of my patients, even in the ladies, they complain, I just ate my dinners 2 hours ago and I'm still craving for something. So then I tell them, yeah, the pitta is a little bit too much in your system. So that's where the Agni go, a bit of hypermetabolism. So if this is not looked after, and that could be because of eating too sharp food, too much of chilies, too much of kind of bitter food, too much of fermented food in your system. So could be too many pickles or too many kind of bread or too much of dairy product, which is cheese. So that causes kind of hypermetabolism. So for these people, you need to kind of have more cooling quality of the food, which is more coriander, fresh mint, cooling pitta churna, and cooling pitta spices to the drinks like pitta tea, and having more amla, because amla is one of the ingredients in Triphala. Amla is cooling, so either amla in any form, powder form, fresh form, amla juice. Another tip for Tikshna Agni is having a bit of aloe vera juice diluted with water during the day, also calm down the heat in the body. So that's for the Tikshna Agni. And the third one is Manda Agni. So Manda Agni is sluggish metabolism, and you can easily say, oh, that's kapha. So too much involvement of the kapha element, because kapha is heavy, so that overpower the digestive system. So kapha, Manda Agni people say they don't feel hungry all day. And I hear that a lot from kapha people saying, I don't feel hungry for my breakfast. And sometimes I have to kind of force myself to feed. And then if I don't eat later on the day, they might be craving for heavy food like sugar, chocolate, and things like that. And this also happens in the people when they don't listen to the calls for hunger. So they are kind of, hunger is a natural urge. So when you're hungry, you're busy, you just fill yourself with a coffee or a tea and a chocolate, then you're easy settling the Manda Agni into your system. So regular eating habits are very important to deal with the Manda Agni, and stimulating spices, cinnamon, ginger. So easy tip that we normally give to people is ginger, lemon, and honey before you eat is stimulate your digestive fire a lot. And kapha churna, kapha tea into your food. And Triphala and Trikatu, these are two wonderful herbs to deal with the Manda Agni as well. So there are a lot of other herbs and a lot of things that you can take to help with all of these three imbalances into your digestive fire. So, and then physical activities, regular walk, regular exercise, yoga, asana, other things you can do as well with it.
Okay, Vinder, that's great. So we have the balanced digestion, and then we basically have it broken down into Vata, Pitta, Kapha, which at this stage people are going to be able to recognize. So I think it's very important that everybody should try figure out, where their digestive fits in all of that, and because then you can take the appropriate action to bring it back around and bring it well. So I think for everybody, Rajvinder, eating your main meal in the middle of the day would definitely be recommended.
Absolutely, because we have done in the lectures before the importance of your daily routine. So when the sun is high in the sky, your digestive systems work stronger. So if we miss that and we eat a heavy dinner, next day, of course, we won't be hungry, and then the pattern keeps going on, and we don't connect to ourselves very well, and we are setting ourselves into one of those imbalance in our digestive fire. So then we can't have too much of ojas in our system, and maybe we could have disturbance in one of the 7 tissues that Dr. Naheed was explaining, that easily imbalance could settle in according to what we are doing, how we are eating, when we are eating, where we are eating. All that is very important to have a balanced digestive fire.
So main meal in the middle of the day, and really just a very light meal in the evening time. I imagine have that meal before 7 o'clock. Would that be?
Yes, because we have spoken about 6 to 10, which is the kapha time of the day. And that time, as the sun is going down, and that's the time when body starts producing more melatonin. So our physiology kind of slow down. So our digestive system slow down as well. So we cannot digest a big or heavy meal at that time. So it's good. Again, you self-refer. Depends if you're hungry or not. Some Pitta people, they cannot do liquid day, they cannot do fasting, they cannot do light meal. So they might eat substantial dinner, but again, not overfeeding themselves. As Ayurveda say, your portion is very important. So 3/4 of your stomach should be full and 1/4 of your stomach should be empty. So you kind of have to kind of self-refer yourself to on that, how much food you want in the evening time, because some people, different people have different kind of desires or needs. Vata people are okay. Kapha people are okay when without a dinner or a very light kind of a golden milk. Pitta might need a bit of a substantial lentil stew or curry with rice, something like that. Yes.
Okay, and that's interesting. So you fill the stomach to 3/4 and then you leave 1/4 of the stomach full. So,
Exactly.
So you shouldn't be really eating like a Christmas dinner where you can barely stand up afterwards, because then you're not leaving room for the system to digest everything.
Exactly. That's what Ayurveda tells you. You need to connect with yourself. So we have educated you, Ayurveda educates you about what's going on in your physiology. So now you can see at what level is my digestive fire. Am I in a balanced state? Do I feel hungry on time? Do I feel light after eating? I don't feel heavy, sleepy, groggy after that? Do I not have too many noises or bloating or flatulence after eating? So from there, if any of that is happening, either you can take help of a Ayurveda practitioner to help you to bring the balance back, or you follow the guideline of Vata, Pitta, Kapha and correct your digestive fire and enjoy kind of a good digestive system, regular elimination. And if your food is digesting well, your sleep is better and your energy levels are better. So it's, again, the ball is in your court, really. So.
Okay, so everything is really tied into digestion here, because as we say, if we're digesting the food properly, we're making the right tissues, the tissues are unfolding into the other tissues. So the whole health of the system comes back to the digestive process. And even our immunity, after what Dr. Brennan said, like most of our immunity is in our gut. So obviously having a very healthy gut and not putting wrong things in there is very, very important for our immunity. I also believe it's important for our emotional and mental health as well.
Yeah, absolutely. If you are very emotional, depressed, anxious, it has a huge impact on your digestive system, because as they say, there's a big connection between your gut and mind. So if you're doing emotional eating, you probably end up with a very sluggish metabolism and you end up putting on weight, and that's kind of Kapha indication. If you're angry and irritated and you're eating food, you are setting a lot of inflammation in your system. If you're stressed and worried and you're eating, you are setting a lot of kind of degeneration in your system. So of course your mental health is very important as well. So.
But it's probably a two-way street, is it? Like your mental state can affect your digestion, but your digestion probably also affects your mental state as well.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. So that's why when the physician assess a person, they're not only asking questions about the symptoms, they also check the person's environment, what's going on in their environment, what's their social life, what's their spiritual life, and what's their kind of emotions and all of that. Is there any past trauma? Is there any childhood history? So we kind of evaluate all the different aspects of a person's life. And we may not give them any herb. We just say, okay, you just learn the transcendental meditation, or you just do the yoga, or you just do some pranayama. So yeah, there will be a program tailored according to what's going on in the person's mind, in their body. So it's not only dealing with the symptoms, you have to deal with all the different aspects of a person's life.
Okay, Dr. So thank you very much for that. So there we have it, the very, very important area of digestion. So maybe Dr. Brennan might like to give a little summation of everything that we covered today.
I think it's fascinating, Noel, to come to this part of the course and to see it all come together, and to see the wealth of wisdom that Ayurveda has to offer, just with those reflections of Dr. Rajvinder, how all the various aspects of our life, our environment, our emotion, our thinking, how in terms of the balance and imbalance of our nature with Vata, Pitta and Kapha, we now actually come to see how that impacts in the transformation of the nourishment we ingest into the tissues and the structure that we are. And at so many levels, at the initial level of the primary stages of digestion in the gut, but how the gut in turn It's controlling and influencing profoundly the liver functions and the tissue metabolisms. And so Ayurveda is tracing from cause in life right through the processes in the physiology to the outcome of either perfect health or some disease, whereabouts it's located. And then Ayurveda can address it in the tissues. It can address it in the digestive system. It can address it in the life in terms of the balance of Vata, Pitta, Kapha. So all of these give so many different strategies that can, be used in combination to synergize, to give an overall influence of integration back to the physiology of balance and coherence. And it's amazing that we come from consciousness in a sense, because that's our fundamental, which becomes lively as mind, structuring a body. And then we have this immense capacity to take the material form and transform it within us to finer and finer essences in our tissues, and to ultimately what Dr. Naheed talked about, ojas. And that ojas is what actually so integrates us that we completely awaken the whole field of consciousness. It's the field of perfect health and enlightenment, which is the aim of Ayurveda. Such a rich combination of insights that come together in order for us either to treat the disease or to prevent this disease, or to take us forward in terms of our well-being, our joy in life, our health. It's a lovely, I think, perspective to bring the lectures of the course together and synergize into this final, beautiful, Ojasic project.
Okay, Dan, I think that's a great summation of the whole thing. So thanks very much for that. So the ultimate thing is, the ultimate goal of health is the production of ojas and happiness, and having that state of exalted consciousness, really perfect health, and everything being just a part of that whole thing, So I'm sure that lots of questions have come up about that. We covered an awful lot of ground in today's talks. So again, we're going to start our Q&A session. And again, we give preference to people who have questions about the topic of the day. We will endeavour to answer all questions, but we will give preference to people who talk about the topic of the day. So I'll thank the doctors, and then the doctors will hang on, and we'll go over and we'll begin our Q&A session.
Now, okay, so we covered a lot of ground there. So let's see. Dr. Brennan is already unmuted. Dr. Naheed, you can unmute yourself now. And Dr.
Yes.
Rajinder is there as well. Let's see, is Dr. Rajinder muted? So Dr. Rajinder, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Yep.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so we covered a lot of ground in that. So you can obviously see the huge importance that comes from digestion, and having strong digestion and the ability to turn that food into firstly the first tissue, and then from that tissue all the other tissues come. So lots of questions in, I'd say. So if the doctors want to go ahead and.
Okay. The latest one is the digestion low during hay fever. Yes, because hay fever is a kapha condition, as I said earlier. So yeah, it is a sluggish metabolism for sure. And Lim tox is same as detox pitta.
Lim tox O is detox pitta.
Yeah, Lim tox O, sorry.
Lim tox O. A Lim tox is detox, and a Lim tox O is detox pitta. So the difference between those two is that the Lim tox O is not very heating, so it's more for pitta people, it's more suitable for pitta people. And we found that out on our detox course actually as well. So we knew some very strong pitta people. We gave them a Lim tox O as opposed to detox.
I'm taking the question from Mary. I don't know if Dr. Brennan or Naheed wants to. Dr. Naheed wants to. I'll just take this one and I'll be quiet then. Mary is saying she's having her system is out of synchronize her digestive system. So she has 6 to 7 bowel movements, and she's on antidepressants because of that. Mary, you can talk with one of us. Sounds like you're suffering from irritable bowel, or depends on if something else is going on. There are wonderful herbs that could help to restore the digestive system, because if there is any leaky gut, sounds like inflammation in your gut. So there are herbs that could help you, definitely. So I think the detailed evaluation is needed to help you with all this.
or you simply can start with ginger water, like dry ginger water. You can boil them and you can have them.
For if she has 6 to 7 bowel movement, Dr. Nahid, ginger water may not be that suitable for her.
Yeah.
The rice water will be great.
Yeah.
How do you make rice water, Dr. Richvinder? I have a friend I want to. What's the procedure for rice water? It's just 6 cups of water to 1 cup of rice, is there, or 6 to 1? And
Yeah, that is possible. And the other way is when you're making the rice, so normal ratio is 1 to 2. So instead of 1 to 2, you add a 1 to kind of 4 cups of water. And when your rice are nearly done, like you check with your fingers and you can press them down. So you can drain that water.
okay.
Yeah. So, and that we call pitcha in Ayurveda. It is known as pitcha. And pitcha is brilliant for people with diarrhea, IBS, any that type of stuff, because some lady's asking for her son. So this is brilliant thing to do.
And you just drink it during the day. You just put it in a flask and drink it during the day, isn't it?
Yeah, during the day. Yeah. It's called rice milk. So, but commercial rice milk, it's better you make at home with the rice water.
Okay.
Yeah. So what people normally in India do, they put a little bit of ghee and put some roasted cumin powder, and then put this rice milk and give it a little kind of heat, warm it up, and then drink it as a soup.
There's a question there about different Ayurveda companies selling Ayurveda products. And there is a problem actually, because Ayurveda can get a very bad name if the products are found to be not perfect. And it did happen that there was some bad publicity years ago about heavy metals in Ayurveda preparations. So heavy metals can arise due to the processing of the product in an industry that hasn't got high standards. So that's why we're very careful to use Maharishi Ayurveda products, because it's produced in a facility which is ultra modern and very high standards. But what's double secured is that in importation to Europe, the batches are tested for all sorts of things: bacteria, fungi, heavy metals, contaminants of any description. So we know that the herbs are pure with Maharishi Ayurveda products. There's another company called Puka, and Puka have an industry based in the UK, near Bristol, but they have their farms in India and import their basic ingredients and then make their products there. I couldn't stand over any other companies because I don't know of any other companies who
It's Organic India as well.
Well, you know, they have the good standards, Raj, do you?
They don't supply all of them. The standard ones, like a single herb.
Oh, but what are their standards? What are their manufacturing standards? You know, I mean, we can stand over Maharishi Ayurveda because we know they're tested and we know there's no contaminants in them, and that's why we sell them. But we don't tend to sell too many.
Oh, they only sell they only sell single herbs like Puka.
Okay.
What foods are good for bone marrow tissue? Bone broth.
Bone broth.
Bone broth. That would be actually the best. What would be very bad is any processed foods, any coloring, flavorings, any genetically engineered foods. So any junk foods would be bad. But other foods could be like nuts and seeds and dates and mangoes and olive oil and things like flaxseed oil. Those would be very good as well.
I'm having difficulty with the sound from Dr. Brennan. Is that just me? I'm getting a message here saying the system is low. Can you, Dr. Richvinder, did you hear Dr. Brennan okay?
Yeah, I hear fine.
No problem. Okay, it's my system. There's something happening with me this evening. Yeah.
Okay. If you're working and you cannot get main meal during a day, what would you suggest? You can start bringing thermos flask. You can make a lovely khichdi or warm your food and bring in the thermos flask. That's the best way if you're working. The idea of main meal is so that you eat something so that your energy levels are good, your glucose levels, your sugar levels don't dip, because that leads you to craving caffeine or sugar. So it's better to eat a kind of some kind of meal that helps you satisfy you a bit, rather than just a sandwich or a coffee or something like that. That's what most of we are very used to do. Just grab a sandwich and then coffee and then later on a chocolate or something like that. So if you bring a kind of a warm meal with you, it saves you from going and start eating more sugar.
Yeah, I mean, if
So
you're
try-
working, then you need to learn how to cook a fast lunch. Actually, we have a video on it on our YouTube channel. There's no excuse for not having a proper meal in the middle of the day. You just cook a fast lunch. It'll take you about 10, 15 minutes, and then in the morning time, and then it cooks in the flask, and then it'll be ready for you when you go to eat it, and you just have healthy, delicious food, you know. So that's what you do.
Dr. Nahid, you want to take?
Yeah, so there's a question about ojas. So is there any way to assess the amount of ojas one has in their body, like a blood test or something? So your system and your symptoms will only tell you that whether you're having a proper amount of ojas or not. So your livelihood, your cheerfulness, that you don't need any occasion to just be happy, to be joyful. You're enjoying your life. You're not falling sick very often, and you're digesting your food properly. You have like enthusiasm to work. You're not feeling tired with just little effort or with just little exertion. So these are some of the signs that you are producing good amount of oja. And yeah, in bowel motions, that you're passing your motions properly, your tongue is not coated. So these are the signs that tells you that you are having a proper amount of ojas.
What to eat if you have stress?
It is the best to find a good activity.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
go ahead, Nahid.
Now we're both quiet.
Were you going to say something, Nahid?
Oh no, I'm not able to hear.
Can't hear.
Okay, okay. Well, I was going to say that what to eat if you have stress-related stomach pains. I think the difficulty there is that stress could be anger and irritation and a very pitta orientation, which causes acid in the stomach and burning pains. Stress could be fear or anxiety and panic. It could be very vata problem, and vata then cause disruption of the stomach as well. So kapha could cause stomach disruption just with excess mucus. So I think what you have to do there is figure out the vata pitta kapha and bring it back to balance, and then strengthen digestion. And you know, your question about foods would be answered if we had an understanding of what lay behind the pain. So otherwise, it's hard to give a recommendation. But certainly, if your meats are very hard, red meats are hard to digest. Taking easier to digest foods, lighter meats are more vegetarian may be helpful. Back to Raj.
I'm just looking. Somebody said yogurt and fruits a good combination. Your yogurt comes under dairy as well, so the dairy and fruits are not normally recommended. The problem here is the fruits after digestion effect. We are calling about the vipaka, which is the post-digestive effect of fruit is sour on the system. And the dairy effect could be sweet on the system. So in that way, the sweet and sour combination, it causes more fermentation in the system. So that's the one reason. And the second reason is fruit digest are very faster. And the dairy products or grains, they may be a bit slow on the digestive tract. So that's also lead to more digestive issue. So if you already have sensitivity going on in your digestive system, you better avoid these kind of dairy and fruit combination and grains and fruit together. So then you just better eat on them on their own.
Very nice. And just to add to that, that banana and yogurt definitely are a bad combination. Should not be taken together.
Because banana is sweet, but in the digestive system, the vipaka is sour. So.
Yeah.
They both have.
Go ahead, Nahid.
Yeah, and they both have a quality like to obstruct our shrotas, to obstruct our channels.
Yeah, heavy.
So if someone is having aches and pains, they are not advised to have bananas and yogurts.
Yeah.
Question there from Betty. She says, "What is the best way to find a good Ayurvedic practitioner?"
Yeah.
I don't know, Betty. No, you're looking at three of them, Betty. That's the best way to find a good Ayurvedic practitioner. So if you go to our website, the doctors are all doing consultations. They're all done via Zoom at the moment. But I don't know how else in your area. There's not really that many as such, you know, but you could Google it, I suppose. But all our three doctors do consultations as well, you know.
I think in the UK, there's an association, an Ayurveda Practitioners Association, that would guide you to local qualified practitioners. They have a practitioners in their website, Ayurveda Practitioners Association. But in Ireland, you're not spoiled for choice. You're looking
Yeah.
at them.
But you are spoiled for quality. So, and then a lot of people I mean, Dr. Brennan worked in the UK for decades, you know, so we have a lot of people from the UK would do consultations over Zoom with Dr. Brennan, you know, and that association, he mentioned he was the founding president of that association as well, you know. So yeah, there's no, you know, if you haven't got one right beside you, and you know, you can have a consultation with one of the doctors here. All the details about how to do that are on our website, you know.
And to finish off Betty's two questions, when there are problems with the gut, is taking ordinary yogurt enough, or could you take acidophilus supplements? Well, Betty, yogurt is hard to digest. So, especially if you have problems with the gut, I wouldn't be taking neat yogurt. However, if you make a lassi of the yogurt, in other words, dilute it and thin it out, then it's very helpful for digestion. It's taken at lunchtime. So taken with the lunch, diluted, maybe 1 part yogurt, 3-4 parts water and flavor to make nice drinks. That's excellent for digestion and is a very good source of the good bacteria you're looking for to help your gut. You can take acidophilus supplements, but you know, the jury is out as to how useful these probiotics actually are. They seem to work only while you're taking them. They don't seed in the gut so well. And what really works well for seeding a lot of good bacteria in your gut is a very diverse plant-based diet.
So Sandy asked, what product would you recommend for someone with chronic fatigue syndrome and very like kapha syndrome? So chronic fatigue can be because of fatigue is a symptom of so many diseases. It can be a most common symptoms of anemia, or it can be you know, when you are not digesting your food and not making your tissues properly. But if you're sure that there is no medical situation or condition is going on, then you can try with ashwagandha along with milk if you're comfortable with dairy milk. And we have second supplements in our website like Maharishi products, MA4 Amrit Kalash paste. So they are the wonderful rasayana and they helps you to overcome chronic fatigue syndrome.
Would rice water be added to the vegetables? Yeah, you can add that. It's just mainly if you have diarrhea or kind of really, really sensitive, too much going on, then you take it. Otherwise, khichdi is very good. That's where you add rice and mung dal and vegetable. That's also very good for diarrhea and normal for gut. So khichdi is great. So yeah, you can add rice water to that. Anything. And
Can celiac disease be brought on by stress? Well, not really. If it's a full-blown celiac disease, it's an inherited condition and it's going to be irrespective of stress. But having said that, there may be degrees of sensitivity to gluten. And if someone is mildly sensitive to gluten, well, any upset to their digestive system is going to make that much worse. And then, yes, stress can make the condition worse. But if it's a full-blown celiac disease, it's just a matter of always having to avoid gluten.
So Mary B asked, what is your opinion of colonic irrigation? So yeah, when you do panchakarma, a treatment in Ayurveda that I recommend everybody to do if they get a chance, towards the end of your treatment, they will do what's called a basti, which is form of colonic irrigation, you know, but that's after some treatments to warm up the gut and loosen the toxins and all that. You know, I don't think doing a 1-day colonic irrigation probably is not a great idea with Ayurveda, you know, or, you know, there's coffee enemas and stuff like that, but not really as part of a treatment where you've ingested ghee, you've loosened up the toxins, you've flushed everything down into the gut, you've been on a very light diet, taking khichdi and, you know, light food and in proper preparation, then bastis, which is what they're called in Ayurveda, you know, and they use oils and herbs and all sorts of things, really can be very, very valuable. But when we do panchakarma, we do 21 days and you'd be 12 days into that, maybe more before they'd even start on the bastis, you know. So it's there's a big warm up. Dr. Brennan, you look like you want to say something there.
I do. Because the seat of Vata in the body, the very home, the most important location of Vata in the body is the colon. And that's why, as Noel points out, the good digestion and the good elimination particularly is important for good health. That Vata is so important. If you now start to put in something like coffee, which provokes Vata, into the area of Vata main location in the body, whereas you might feel an initial relief for an immediate effect, the long-term effects of that. As one specialist in Panchakarma in India told me, you sort of dry up the lining of the colon, and that brings on premature aging. So, you don't, the thing about these fads is people don't know what they're doing. They get an immediate feeling of that was a relief, but they don't know what they're doing. And that's the great benefit of having this incredible, ancient, time-tested tradition with great experts. Because Panchakarma is an advanced training for an Ayurvedic doctor. It's like a PhD or an MSc. It's a specific training that's extra for Ayurvedans to run courses of Panchakarma because they're very important, but very sophisticated. And you have to know what you're putting in there, what's in those medicated enemas. So, sorry to...
Yeah, in the long term, the coffee enemas, water enema can cause more vata problems. So it's better, to have them oil-based, or the Ayurvedic irrigations will be more herbs, decoctions, and oils and stuff like that. So there are different type of irrigations.
There's a clinic in the UK in Skelmersdale outside of Liverpool that do Panchakarma treatments in residence, and anybody that has the money and the time definitely consider doing that. It is quite expensive. I think probably you'd be looking at a minimum of 150 to 200 pounds a day, I would imagine. Which depends on how much money you have. People will spend that in a hotel room. This would be accommodation plus your treatments and stuff like that, and your food, But you can check it out with them. But they're the best around, as far as I'm concerned, anyway. In the UK and Ireland, really, they're definitely the best around. We at some stage may try to do that if we can, and then we'll be the best around. But at the moment we don't have it to offer, But it's definitely worth doing. I mean, I try to do it every single year. Now I didn't get away last year. Actually, didn't get away the year before. In actual fact, I haven't done it for a few years. The last time I did it was in Kerala with Dr. Brennan, and a group of us went over, and we spent 21 days there. But hopefully next year I'll get to do it. It's absolutely fabulous thing to do if you get a chance to do it.
No,
that's fantastic.
Go ahead, Naheed.
Oh, I was just talking about the Panchakarma, the benefits of Panchakarma. So I had a training of around 1 year in Panchakarma, especially in Panchakarma department. And like people used to come crippling, and when they used to discharge, when they used to go back to home, they used to walk like normal. So Panchakarma is a very fantastic thing, but you need to do it with a lot of precaution, because a simple mistake, just a simple mistake can give you a lot of complication.
Yeah, you need to do it under guidance. You need we wouldn't dream of doing it. Like it would just be doctors, the Ayurvedic doctors that and we'd only do it in residence. We wouldn't do it as a home thing. Like it's completely different than the detox thing that we did, and people got huge benefits from that detox. But Panchakarma is on a different level altogether. So, anyone know about ovary simple cyst from Preti's iPhone?
Yeah, it's a kapha condition. Any kind of growth in the body is kapha, so you need to look into kapha foods. And there are like the simple herbs that I'm talking all the time, Trikatu. And then there are more specific herbs, Kanchnar, Guglu preparations are great. So yeah, and the castor oil packs you can do as well. You can work on it. You can easily reduce it and get rid of it slowly.
So Pam Harris says, where is Kerala? Yeah, I suppose I'm so used to it that I just would assume. But Kerala is in southern India. It's a state.
Where in Kerala? So Dr. Ravi Luce.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, where in Kerala? Yeah, I thought it was where is Kerala? Yeah, there's lots of clinics out there, but Ravi Luce's place is moose.com, MOOS.com.
Noel, another question there for you.
Mike, probably
Will we have a lecture on about the pitta season? That question came through.
yeah, we'll have to have a talk about that. We'll have to have a meeting, group meeting of all the doctors to see exactly what we want to do over the summer. And yeah, but it mightn't be a bad idea. And someone asked about the 6 stages of disease as well, which this group hasn't. Well, some of them may have seen it, but yeah, we'll just have to sit down and take a look at the diary and figure out what we're going to do. So we'll do that in the next week or so, you know.
Another question is diabetes a kappa problem? There are two types of diabetes. One is like the youth onset one is a vata problem, and then there's the more common one, which is the type 2 diabetes, and that's a kappa diabetic condition.
Have you heard of?
And how can you tell when you're 3/4 full? When you're 3/4 full, 3/4 full is supposedly if you put your two hands in front of you like that together and have a look and see, and that's supposed to be 3/4 full, right? So that gives people quite a shock because we're so used to overeating. However, 3/4 full is where you feel fulfilled, satisfied, contented, but you're not filled full. You're not weighed down, you're not heavy, you're not bloated, distended. It's a comfortable feeling of lightness and energy after a meal as opposed to a heavy, distended feeling.
Yeah. Somebody's asking twice about the fluvic acid. Do you want to share your opinion, Dr. Brennan? It's a kind of a cleanser and anti-inflammatory. I haven't used it that much because I just mainly use herbs. Yes, it sounds good. It's like some people suggest bromelain as well for inflammation. So yeah, I haven't used it, so I cannot. I have heard of it for sure. Yeah, I've seen it in the health stores.
Not sure about it. It's basically a group of chemicals that occur when plants and animals break down. It's
like a fermentation. Sounds like some kind of fermentation with apple cider kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like the humus.
Yeah.
Soil and peat. So yeah. I can see it as being a very sattvic or pure product. So the fermentation may support digestion. There are nicer ways of doing the fermentation process, like the traditional foods, like again kefir or all these the lassi we were talking about. The French used blue cheeses that nearly walk off the table, and so there was traditional fermented foods, and that would be more in the vein of an Ayurvedic approach.
Yeah. So too much fermentation is not fermented stuff, not good for pitta. So if you have colitis or any of the pitta conditions, you stay away from these kind of products.
So Patricia asks, are any of the doctors covered by private health insurance? Patricia, you'd have to check with your private health insurance. We can provide a receipt, but we wouldn't know.
Most of the health insurance pay half of the fees. That's what my patients say.
Some of them do, yeah. So you'd have to check. Each individual health insurance company is different, I mean, people often ask me, well, is it covered by the medical card? And it's not covered by the medical card, the government medical card. Should be, but it's not. But as regards your private health insurance, then some of them do. Some of them have, cover for alternative treatments, which Ayurveda could fall under, So you just have to ask them, and then they might ask you for the qualifications of the doctors. So, all our doctors have BAMS, or Dr. Brennan is a medical doctor. So we wouldn't be able to answer that question. You have to ask your own private health insurance company,
Is digestion low during hay fever? Well, a low digestion could contribute to hay fever. It's not necessarily that just because you have hay fever, your digestion is very low. And Bernani got a stomach ulcer, and Helicobacter pylori. But then burping and the voice got hoarse. In other words, you're producing excess acid. So it would be a matter of what we were talking about, taking care of digestion from today's talk. You might also try the acid balance tablets that might help to somewhat, if you're taking them for a month or two, to normalize your stomach acid.
there's a question about what should be to eat and drink for children in diarrhea. So red lentil khichdi, like which is called masoor dal as well. That's kind of orange reddish in color. That's very binding. That helps to stop, diarrhea. And for drinking, you can give pomegranate juice. So pomegranate juice is also binding, a bit of constipating, so that also reduces diarrhea. You can try with them. And I take one more question. How to strengthen lungs? You do breathing exercises like Brahmari Pranayama, hummingbird Pranayama, alternate nostrils breathing that helps to cleanse your respiratory channel, your respiratory tract. And we have a very good supplement called Chavanprash, which is an excellent tonic for your lungs. You can have them 1 teaspoon after your breakfast, or 1 tablespoon after your breakfast, with a little bit of warm milk. And there are a lot of herbs and spices are there to strengthen the lungs. So better to take a consultation if you already suffered COVID, like after COVID, what measures you need to take and all, or if you have a chronic condition lung. So better to take a consultation before you start anything.
Our kanji is good for diarrhea as well. That rice water that we talked about earlier on, and then you can make that, and then you can just, put it in a flask and they can sip it. It's full of nutrients,
That
and
is, kanji is, just to clarify that, no, that's cooking rice 1 to 8 for 8 hours if you can do that. Well, even if you cook for less, it's fine. And then adding a little bit of molasses or maple syrup in it because of the electrolyte purpose. So that's what the kanji is. How do you differentiate kanji from rice?
For 8 hours. The recipe I had was for 45 minutes.
8 hours are only suggested too.
8 hours. Wow. I was looking at some recipes there for
Yeah,
somebody
even
earlier on.
shorter one will do as well. The traditional is 8 hours. Yeah, you can do traditional shorter one for sure. Yeah, it's the slow cooker. I guess the high heat probably is less time.
So someone asked, do you know which is the best health insurance in Ireland? I don't know. I don't have health insurance, so I don't know.
It's an answerable
I don't know,
question,
Dr.
Noel, because each of them have hundreds of policies, and it's a matter of finding the best policy for you, depending upon what you need or want. So there are websites to make it easy. There's a government website to try and help you to compare policies and prices to decide for yourself. There's even insurance specialists that specialize in
recommending policies.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's that complicated.
Yeah. I looked at it one time and it was a minefield, so I just decided I insure my health by staying healthy as long as I can. And then I'm fortunate because I know a lot of people in the medical fields, including you, but also in other people as well. So I'm hoping I could use my connections if anything happened to me. But anyway, I suppose most people do have health insurance. Check with them. I mean, if you ask them on the phone, do they cover Ayurveda? The person on the phone probably won't know what Ayurveda is, So
you just say alternative consultation.
Yeah.
They do cover one, I think, alternative session once a month or something, because people claim for acupuncture and massage and consultation.
But you have to check that for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, we never get involved in that. Never ever involved in that. So my general answer is no. That's so you have to check that for yourself. We can give you a receipt. That's as far as we take it. We don't get in touch with insurance companies. We just wouldn't have time to do any of that. So you just need to check that for yourself.
Sandy is wondering about chronic fatigue syndrome and varicophtha-like symptoms. Well, Sandy, I think chronic fatigue is one thing that warrants a consultation, because it's a chronic condition. It's going to take you time. It has to be a detailed insight that guides you. So that would be my suggestion there. And Donal O'Shea, how do you go about identifying an energy blockage, whether due to stress, trauma, heightened awareness? Well, if the energy is blocked, it's blocked. So it's not hard to recognize that. But the cause of it, again, you're into questions, Donal, as to whether it's a Vata Pitta Kapha problem, whether it's a digestion or metabolism problem, at what level. It fits in nicely with Anthony's question about Rasa Dhatu, because Rasa Dhatu is the first of the 7 tissues, and it's responsible for giving us energy. So it could be a way of supporting your energy in terms of strengthening your Rasa Dhatu by supporting your digestion and metabolism. And then there are foods that are helpful to Rasa Dhatu, again, like the fruits are quite helpful. And a tea with cumin, coriander, fennel, and adjuvant can be quite helpful as well. So, juicy fruits, vegetables, and so barley, ghee, nuts, honey, sugarcane. So there are foods that's supportive to energy like that, supportive to the rest of that.
So Betty asked, are there Ayurvedic cookery books available? Yeah, there's lots of them, Betty. Just go online and you'll find them. And then Dr. Richvinder has done quite a lot of cookery courses, webinars that we have on our website that you can rent, you know. And that brings me to one thing that I haven't done so far, but I will do tomorrow. With every course that we run, we give people a voucher towards the end as kind of a thank you for doing the course. And that'll give you 20% off all of our products and all of our webinars, our replay webinars, not our live ones. So I'll send you that voucher, and you have to use it online. We don't really take telephone orders. We try to cut that out as much as possible. We just don't have time to do that. So you just order online on our website, ayurveda.ie, and I'll send out a voucher code. It'll be course 13 because it's the 13th, even though it might even be the 14th course. I'm not too sure, but it'll be course 13 will be the voucher code. And when you put that in on the system, it'll give you 20% off. We don't have any cookery books on our website, but we do have Dr. Richvinder's webinars. And we will be running more cookery courses in the autumn as well, you know. But there's lots of books online. I mean, you can, Ayurveda means knowledge, so you can get it from everywhere. So, you know, there's lots of Ayurvedic websites. You can read things, you can find out about things, you can get books. There's Dr. Brennan's book. There's Contemporary Ayurveda for those of you that want to look into it more in depth. There's just a huge, vast range of knowledge. There's Ayurvedic courses you can do. There's, you know, so if this course has, you know, if you found it interesting, and I don't see how anybody couldn't really find it interesting, and you think it's something you'd like to integrate more and more into your life, well, then keep in touch with us, but also go on your own Ayurvedic journey and start to explore different things that are there, you know. So it's a fantastic knowledge, and it can add life to your years and years to your life, you know, so.
I'm more asked about osteopenia, more a vata problem. Bones are a vata tissue, so you have to do everything to balance your vata, and then you have to strengthen your bones as well. And that can be achieved through, as you know, exposure to sunlight, to get your vitamin D, some just regular exercise to help the bones, and then foods that are very helpful. Well, the sesame oil massage is very important. I will be doing that every day. And tahini or sesame seeds are very good food for your bones, as are seeds generally. Other foods are nourishing to the bones, like oats and wheat and dried fruits, nuts. So yes, there's a lot of different ways of approaching the osteopenia from the Ayurveda point of view.
And for the achy
No,
joint,
I know my
Yeah. Did you see that comment? Yeah.
yes.
What was that?
Well, Don, you have to solve this one once and for all. It's from Carmel. It says, this is Dermot. Don, while you were away, Noel did his best to fill your shoes. However, he may have crossed the line by claiming he was in his 60s. Would you care to comment?
Yes, we celebrated his 60th birthday there recently, so he is.
Thanks
He
very
is.
much. A doctor
But
would
I told you before, Naheed is in her 50s, and no one would believe me.
yeah.
and I'm on my
Yes.
70s.
Yeah. Okay, I think we've come to an end with that. So, okay, so that's great. So it just remains for me to say a big thank you to everybody that came along on the course. I hope you all enjoyed it. It's fantastic knowledge, but it's no good unless you start putting it into use. And so many of you have put it into use, because I get emails from people, like literally they're sent to me, but they're meant for the doctors, like all the time, from people saying, I got one the other day from a woman who said, I'm getting up at 5:30 in the morning. I can't believe how beautiful it is in the morning. I can't believe how good I feel during the day, you know, just by making that change. And, you know, so people are making these small changes. You don't have to go and buy herbs. You don't have to have a consultation. These things are nice to do as well, but you can make simple changes with your meal in the middle of the day, and don't be eating processed foods and going to bed early and getting up early and doing your nasya and your tongue cleaning. All of those things that you can just add into your daily routine that are going to make a huge huge difference to your life. They're going to make a huge difference to your ongoing health, you know. So yeah, so we hope you got an awful lot from it. I want to say a huge thank you to the doctors. We're taking a break now for a few months. We started this last April, a year ago, 2020. We started running courses. We've practically run them for, I think we may have had a break of a week at one stage, but other than that, and the doctors have come on twice a week and more than twice a week, because we did lots of other webinars in between as well, you know. So a big thank you to Dr. Brennan, whose wealth of knowledge. He's, you know, he's just the father of Ayurveda in Ireland and the UK, really, you know, and he's come on here every week to share that knowledge with people. And Dr. Naheed has come in from India. She's been back in India for quite a while now, but it's not quite the middle of the night there, but it's quite late, really, you know, and she's come on to share her knowledge. And of course, Dr. Rajvinder, who has a wealth of knowledge, and many of you will have had consultations with Dr. Rajvinder. So a big thank you to the doctors for sharing all their knowledge with you and for coming on and answering. We haven't avoided any questions. We mightn't have answered every question that was put up, but we certainly haven't intentionally avoided any. So you can see the whole breadth and range of Ayurveda. Ayurveda is a funny thing. I've said this before. It's in a very unique position. It's the medicine. It's the healthcare system of the past. And it's also the healthcare system of the future. It's just in a little flux at the moment, but it's going to be coming back, and it's going to be coming back in a huge way in the next 10 years. And the three doctors that are on here are going to be a huge part of that revival. And all of you are going to be a huge part of that revival as well, because this unnecessary suffering and ignorance that's there, it doesn't need to be there. We can improve ourselves. We can improve the planet. We can have healthy, happy, joyful lives just through the implementation of this knowledge. So listen, a big thank you to everybody that came on. Someone mentioned about the solstice party. Let me meet up with the doctors over the next few days. We'll discuss, we'll plan what we're doing for the summer, and you're all on our mailing list. You know, I'll put everybody on this that joined this course. I'll put them on the main mailing list, so you'll get our regular newsletters. If you don't want them, simply click unsubscribe at the bottom. But we'll keep you informed of everything that's coming up. And yeah, that's Sally Hayden says, another great evening, Noel. Please don't forget about the summer solstice party. We won't, Sally. We want to meet up. We want to keep a contact with everybody. We've had about 15,000 people register for these courses over the last year, and we want to keep in touch with all of those people. So have a fantastic summer. Have a great summer, and we'll see.
Can I add in, Noel, that, you know, we have had many reports from people who have taken these 6 lesson course and whose health have been profoundly transformed because they took seriously their health, and they took seriously some of the suggestions. It's very effective knowledge. It does work, and we can only do our best to encourage you to incorporate particularly those issues and suggestions that relate to your situation. But do take an interest in Ayurveda, do take an interest in your health. You can make a big difference to it. You should take responsibility, and that would be our fulfillment, to know that you have, you know, improved health-wise and are feeling better. So go for it.
Absolutely. So we'll draw this to a conclusion, unless any of the other doctors have anything they'd like to say.
Well, a big thank you to you as well.
Yes, for organizing all of this. It's been absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, because somebody said yours.
All our knowledge is useless unless it gets out to you, you know, and that's Noel's incredible talent and skill, as well as, of course, keeping us on track.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's good to be able to put your talents to good use, you know, so, and you could put them to better use in Ayurveda, that's for sure, you know. So,
and it's such a nice community. It really feel like a family. From last year we started this, and lots of people got connected, and so nice, lovely comment and great support here, getting the Ayurveda out. Lots of you are saying you heard Ayurveda for the first time. So happy that Ayurveda is getting recognized and people are finding it beneficial. As Dr. Dawn said, a lot of you have already just listened to simple things and applied to, like, even going to bed on time or eating your main meal has improved your energies and your life much better. So it gave us a big pleasure to hear all of this, and it definitely encouraged to do us more. So thank you so much for your support and a lot of positive comments and everything that you have given, and a very good, happy family here. So grateful for that. Big gratitude.
Yeah, and people are saying, can they do the course again? Absolutely, we'll be running the course again. Actually, you'll be getting an email where I'm getting 7 videos together that they're recorded now. There'll be nothing live, but you can watch the Q&As, you can watch all of that, you can go back over this. Those links I've sent you anyway, they're all going to be active anyway for the next 6 months. But I'm putting together one for new people and for ye to look at. And then come September, we'll be back live, whether it's this course or another course or whatever, but we'll be back on, so you can join in with us again.
Yeah,
That stage,
planning
our family will be back together again when Dr. Naheed comes back from India, and we're
Mhm.
looking forward to greeting her back in our home soil here in Ireland.
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, I am just planning to come back. Because of the restrictions, I'm just waiting to get vaccinated and all. I'm just trying to come back. It's been a lot over here in summer. So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
hopefully you'll
and
be
it's
back by the
been
time the autumn comes, you know.
And definitely we will miss, people are saying we will miss all of, yeah, we will definitely come up with more webinars and more courses. Aisling is asking us to do a webinar while will be on the holidays. Well, we'll try. We'll definitely be thinking on new stuff. Yeah.
And Ruby says it's a way of life. Well, absolutely, Ruby. It definitely is a way of life, and you can integrate it into all aspects of your life, and it's a fabulous way of life. And I see Antoinette Flanagan is on there. So hi, Antoinette, and she's been on. I think this must be your second or third.
and there is one more comment from Noel.
Sorry.
There is one comment for Noel. Noel, you are the king of passion.
There you
And
are.
thank you for arranging all the things. Thank you for keeping us busy for last 1.5 years and making this family. So I'm really going to miss everyone, but hope that I'm going to come back to Ireland very soon. Then I can have a one-to-one consultation with all those pulse rigging and everything which I'm missing.
Mhm.
And thank you for being with us. And we would love to see you all again. So
Yeah.
looking forward when our courses start, or whether we do anything else in between the new course and then in the summer time.
We'll
Thank
organize
you.
we'll organize a big Ayurveda party where everybody can actually meet up or something like that. You know, wouldn't that be great? A couple of
It'd
thousand
be nice to climb the Crow Patrick together.
people. I'll climb Copacabana together.
Ayurveda, hail Ayurveda.
You can make chai for 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay, everybody, that's it. Namaste. Thanks very much, and thanks to the doctors, and we'll be in touch with everybody soon. So yeah, have a great summer. Put all your Ayurvedic knowledge to good use, and we'll be back in touch. You'll get an email off me in the morning, so don't worry about it. But we'll be back in touch with everybody soon. So namaskar, everybody. Thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.